Hey guys, I wanted to talk more about a certain subject that not a lot of people understand. Because a lot of people try to remain blind to it as to not get sucked into the drama of everything. But honestly, I think this is something that everybody should be more educated on because it is more likely to happen nowadays than ever. Especially if you're involving yourself in a group of people. Um, Not to mention a group of people that have found mild success and now have let that go to their heads and think that they can dictate what other people can do. The the one thing when being a content creator that you should always strive to be is grounded and humble. For example, my content, not the best. I would definitely say it's not the best. In some aspects, it's garbage, and I'm fine with that. But the reason why I put it on such a higher pedestal in my mind is because I'm proud of what I made. There's a difference between that and saying, oh yeah, I'm part of this group, so that means my opinion has more weight and has more value than anybody else's out there. So literally anything that you make or say or do has zero merit because I say so. And it leads to incredibly toxic and hurtful groups of people to come together and target people, which is it's tough to sit there and see a bunch of good people turn out that way. It is incredibly hard to sit there and watch it happen as it happens right in front of your eyes. The biggest example I can give is when I joined Mania to make season 2. When I was cast as Adrian for season 2. And I helped out give my opinions on different voice actors and what I thought of what different people were doing. And eventually we had everyone. We were all gathered together. We finally had a team gathered together. And it was the first time ever for either of us to work in a team like that, of that many people. And we made the most of it at the time. At the time, we tried to do a whole bunch of stuff. It didn't end up working out, unfortunately, because scheduling is probably the hardest thing to do when you're managing a team, because everybody has their own lives to live. Some of us have to work day jobs. Some of us can't dedicate the time to working on projects of such magnitude. And in Mania's case, I don't think she has ever understood that. Mostly because from the very beginning, she has refused to ever financially support herself. Going out and getting a job, learning how to manage money properly, learning how to do your taxes properly, learning how to do this, that, and the other. Proper things that you need to learn before you can just dedicate yourself to something. Granted, do I blame her? No, because her patience and her hard work was rewarded, and now she's tens of thousands of subscribers up and is making quote-unquote quality content. From my perspective, no, it's not quality content. And it's very much the same thing that people bash me for while I'm working on Mystic Hills Origins, is that I'm literally riding the coattails of someone else's success. Well, it's very rich coming from people who work in the same team as the person who continuously collabs with other people simply to increase their own numbers, which is a solid way to do it. From a business standpoint, yes, that is a solid way to do it. As a creator standpoint, it is very stagnant and very bland and not very flexible in terms of creativity, because in the end you're submitting your content to be made under the designs of someone else, and it really limits the amount of things you can do with it. Whereas in what I'm doing with Mystic Hills Origins and Mystic Hills in general, because I'm going to make it an extended project, especially in terms of writing it, because I definitely want to write it. Mystic Hills Origins may be getting animated, but I'm definitely going to be rewriting the entire series based off of what I've written already. And it's something that I tried to do while I was still in that position. I was trying to make an actual story rather than this fantasy that Mania wanted to live out through her content. And that is a very big theme through all of her content. Because the only things that she's making nowadays that actually belong to her, the Yandere series, Aria, Mystic Hills, her reboot, Skydust, which she hasn't even restarted yet again. All of those things are more along the lines of fantasies she wants to live out, and all of her stories have the same reoccurring theme of, hi, I'm Mania, this is my story, and that's it. There's no room for other characters to be in the spotlight. There's no room for actual storytelling to take place. And I get why people like it, but it's also sad to see that people eat up that type of mediocrity. It's really sad. And people always proclaim that, oh, things are never original anyway nowadays. It's always based off of something. That may be true, but coming from the individual, it is unique through that individual. The way I'm writing Mystic Hills Origins is just one way to write it. Someone else could have written it another way. This other person could have written it in another way. Like, things could have played differently if someone else were in my shoes writing the story, which is fine. That's the way it goes. Each writer has their own way to do things. However, the one thing a storyteller must always be able to do is actually tell a story. Sitcoms and dramas are not stories. They are lazy and bland ways to live out some sort of fantasy land that you have in your head. Fuck off. Sorry, my alarm went off. For it to be an actual story, you have to have a beginning point and an end point. And your characters have to have grown from beginning to end. Not only in the beginning do you have to establish your characters, there has to be continuous character growth all the way to the end. Some characters can stay the same, but most of your characters have to go through some sort of character arc of their own. Again, I'm going to refer to the original version of Mystic Hills. The main issue with the original Mystic Hills is the same issue that all of Mania's stories have, is that she is continuously in the spotlight, and it is only ever about her. And only for brief moments can the focus ever shift away from her before she gets upset and disinterested in writing a story. With the way it was pulled off, it flowed decently. Not well, but decently. And I can almost guarantee people would have loved the way the original cut was supposed to be for Season 3, because most of the second half of Season 3, which was the half that was cut out, and that's not an exaggeration, the entire season, bam, cut directly in half because Mania didn't want to do it. Because it wasn't her in the spotlight at any moment. The other half, almost every character that went into Mystera with her got their own separate episode centered around them. It actually had character development, character growth for these characters that were just segregated to the side for most of the series. Lyric was supposed to have an episode. Holly was supposed to have an episode. Hunter got his own episode. He probably, out of all of the characters in the original series, Hunter is probably the only character that actually had any character growth. And it all came to its peak towards the third quarter of Season 3 from the original cut. And you didn't get to see any of that because it was all cut. And it really screwed up a bunch of people's chances to debut as voice actors. It really screwed up their chances. And that's probably the thing that I feel the worst about for that whole situation, is all of those people got cut and were not allowed to be part of the series. And it was very, very, very selfish of her to just cut it and not give these people a chance to be a part of that project, because that's the thing. Like, it was their opportunity to start something for themselves, and it would have gone well. I almost guarantee it would have went well, but we'll never know now because the finale happened the way it happened, and it was very much botched and cut up and rushed. And it ended the way it ended because in the end it turned into just another Mania story. And a lot of people are going to make the argument, well, aren't you writing Mysticill's origins to make it all about Adrian? That is not the case. Because while all these events are centered around Adrian, as he's going through his character arc throughout the entire story, of which probably brings the most significant change in part 3, which I need to get back to writing. It all coincides with these other stories that are told. All of these other characters that are introduced. Everybody has their own time in that spotlight. It's not just about Adrian. And that's kind of the whole point of the story, is Adrian figuring out it's not all about what I want. It's not all about what I feel is best. And that's the way I've been writing it, is some actual character growth for all of these different characters. Actual establishment of characters. And it's actually a story. I'm turning this mess of a roleplay story, quote-unquote, little fantasy that Mania thought up, I'm turning it into an actual story, is the thing. I've seen its potential, and I want it to live up to that potential. Do I think I'm the best person to do that? Absolutely not. I probably could think of a few people who could have written it better than me. I guarantee if Mania had pulled her head out of her ass and understood what she actually had in front of her, the potential of what she had in front of her, she could have written it better. But then we wouldn't be in this situation. Especially with the situation of me being threatened with copyright infringement when it's a roleplay story. And the version of Mystic Hills that you are trying to copyright infringe upon me is a version that you've thrown out and are not going to use ever again. Because last I checked, the reboot has nothing going for it. Honestly, it's an even bigger mess than the original. And the original was a mess from the start because we tried to point it in a good direction, but in the end was botched anyway. And there's a lot of unanswered questions, and there's a lot of lack of character development, and a lot of story points that were not pointed out further. There's a lot of things that were not done well with the original. As much as I praise the original for creating this world that I'm trying to write further, it has a lot of flaws all across the board, across all 3 seasons, even the seasons that I was involved with when writing. There's a lot of holes in the plot. There's a lot of holes in the characters. Leon and Mania are probably the most bland characters you could think of because they have no development and there's no true growth for either of them. Almost all of the main cast had no character development. Hunter is probably the only one that ever gained anything from the entirety of the story. A lot of characters were not introduced and not brought up because of cut content and all these other things. I could go on and on and on and on and on. And that's the thing. I was involved with seasons 2 and 3. I was helping write those seasons, and I still see the issues that went on with them. Mostly because I had to adhere, because even though I was writing a good majority of it, I had to adhere to Mania's vision. And there were a lot of restrictions on what I could actually do with the story. The only major thing that I ever gave outside of continuous episode ideas and writing some episodes was probably the biggest plot point out of the entirety of the story, which continuously drove the rest of the story onwards, which was that Leon and Adrian were halves of the Mystic King. I pitched that, and originally Mania wanted nothing to do with that. But I continued to preface that this was probably the best way to continue the story, and she finally saw the advantages of continuing the story in that direction. But of course, it backfired on me later, because then she could turn around and say, oh, this is not the story I wanted to write. Excuse me. And my rebuttal would be, yeah, the story you wanted to write was, hi, I'm Mania, this is my story, and it was going to be 3 seasons of that. Of random, nonsensical storylines that didn't have any business being around each other. And while that works for some stories, if you're writing a story, it needs to have continuity. It needs to have a world. It needs to have a world building. It needs to have character development. All of these things need to be present for it to be a story. Anyone can write a drama or a sitcom or a role-play script. Not everyone can write an actual legitimate story. Now, I am in no means an expert, so take what I say with a grain of salt. I'm not telling you what to think in all of this. Unlike what everybody else will tell you. I'm not telling you what to think. I'm telling you facts. I'm giving you the facts. Ugh, excuse me. Grody. I'm giving you the facts. And I'm not an expert writer. I'm a fairly good writer when I apply myself to it. Just like anyone else can be good at something. If you apply yourself to something, you will eventually be good at it. I did not get good at voice acting overnight. I did not become a good writer overnight. I did not... There's a lot of things that I became good at that I didn't think I would be good at because I applied myself. But I applied myself, and eventually I did get good at it. Anyway, I'm not here to continuously talk about Mystic Hills all over again. I've made more videos, and probably most of them you haven't seen because they were just rants for hours and hours about what was wrong with the whole situation and whatnot, and why Mania's stuff will always continue to be on the mediocre end of things. But in the end, people will continue to eat her stuff up because she tells them to. And she continuously writes things that only ever appeal to 10 and 12-year-olds in that type of demographic, which, if it works for her, it works for her. That's fine. But I think what she needs to understand is eventually those 10 and 12-year-olds are going to grow up. And they're not going to want to watch that stuff anymore because it's not that good. And her oh-so precious numbers will continue to will degrade. And it won't be forever. Like, I think that's the one thing that she's not thinking about, is she's taking for granted that she has all of these people and all of this YouTube revenue and all of this revenue in general for her. It's not permanent. It can fall out from under her at any time. It's why I still work a day job. I may be laid off right now, but it's why I still work a day job. I don't apply myself to YouTube every moment of every day because that's what I want to do. I would love to do that, but I have to be responsible and practical and understand that I can't do that. I can't continuously pursue a career on YouTube because it is not practical. It is not realistic. You cannot do it overnight. Some people get lucky and get noticed really fast. And that's the one aspect of YouTube that I absolutely hate the most, is 9 times out of 10, you have to get lucky to get noticed on YouTube. You really do. You really have to get lucky. And then you have people like me who work their asses off all year round and have their highs and their lows in their mental states throughout the year and work through it. I've been making YouTube videos for 4 years. 4 years straight. And in terms of the numbers game, I have barely made a dent. In terms of the numbers game, I'm not doing so well. Which is fine. In the end, I don't care about numbers. I care about people. Because that is another thing that a lot of bigger YouTubers eventually forget, is those numbers that pay your bills, that make your video, that watch your videos. They're not numbers. They are people. Granted, there are a great number of YouTubers and content creators in general that understand this concept, that their viewers are actual people and they should be treated like actual people, not like numbers. They shouldn't be treated like slaves. They should not be treated like toys. They are the reason you are where you are. You would be nowhere without those people if they didn't decide to invest in your content. And if you continuously abuse and use that as a way to keep yourself on that pedestal, no matter the cost, you will eventually lose that support. That support will crumble underneath you, and you will lose all of that. And honestly, some people can only learn the hard way. I hate to be that kind of person, but yeah, eventually you have to learn the hard way. There's no quick and easy route to get famous. There is not. You can be the center of attention for a while. Oh yeah, you can manage to hit that spotlight. But you can't maintain that forever. And people argue, well, how do you think people in Hollywood do it? People in Hollywood who actually put in the hard work do make that happen because they work for it. A lot of people that want that quick and easy route, they're not willing to work for it. They're willing to take the easiest route possible and throw anyone and everyone under the bus to make it possible. And those are the people that never make it. Those are the people who always, always, always learns the hard way that if you aren't willing to put in the work, you're not going to get what you want. I am a very, very, very patient man. And I'm willing to put up with a lot of things. I humiliate myself in my videos almost daily. But the one line that I refuse to ever have be crossed is to be disrespected as an individual. Because those people who walk up to you and say, oh, you're nothing, you don't deserve anything, you need to be thinking this way or that way. My question for you people who ask those questions, who are you? Huh? Who the hell are you? Who are you to tell me what to do? Who are you to dictate to me how I should be doing things with my life, with my decisions and my things? And the answer is no one. You're no one. If you're dictating to other people about how they should be living their life without having your own life in order, maybe you should hesitate before you actually say shit. Because, yeah, you're allowed to have your own opinion. That is your right as an individual. But what is not your right is to force that opinion on other people. Freedom of speech exists for a reason. You're allowed to state your opinions. You're allowed to speak them. You're allowed to live and breathe your own opinions. But what you are never allowed to do, ever, in any situation ever, is dictate that your opinion matters over anyone else's. That's what causes a lot of problems that are going on in the world currently. A lot of people dictate, oh, my sexual identity matters. This is my right as an individual to state that what my personal values are should be everyone else's personal values. Okay, cool. I still don't care. You can't force me to believe in what you believe. On the reverse end of that spectrum, should I be respectful? Yes and no. Because that is something you need to earn. Just like my trust. If you earn my trust, that doesn't mean you earn my respect. My respect, the way respect works, for me, in my own words, is I treat everyone with the same modicum of respect that everyone deserves. If I meet you, hello, my name is Matt. It's very nice to meet you. What's your name? Blah, 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 blah. being courteous. It's the same thing in public. Now, in my own normal way, yeah, I make a lot of jokes. Yeah, I can be rude sometimes. If you don't like that, say something. I am very much a person of, if you tell me that something that I do is bothering you, I will try my hardest to do better. Because I'm not perfect. I don't claim to be perfect. I don't claim that anything I do is anyway the best way to be me. For example, not everyone likes my sex jokes. Okay, that's fine. But if you're not speaking up about it, how am I supposed to know that it bothers you? If I say something that offends you and you just sit there and do nothing, how am I supposed to know that it's offended you? Reading minds is not something I'm capable of. I'm not able to do it. I'm never going to be able to do it. Honestly, I don't want to be in the mind of another person. I can barely stand to be in mine every day. Every hour of every day. So unless you speak, unless you say something, communicate, then I can take proper action. Now, there is also the reverse side of that spectrum. I don't like this side of that spectrum because I don't like being that guy. I really don't. And I know that may sound hypocritical of what I've been talking about, but when we're talking about respect, if you don't have my respect, don't expect it. Don't expect me to be courteous if you don't have my respect. If you don't have my respect and I know what type of person you truly are, instead of this mask that you wear for people, don't expect me to treat you with that type of respect. Because I understand the purpose of wearing masks. For people to wear a mask to get through their days. That's fine. But when you're wearing that mask to purposefully guide your way to your own ends and manipulate people and lie to people and convince them of something, that's where I draw the line. That line is drawn. So no, you won't have my respect. You'll never have my respect. I won't treat you with respect. And I'll treat you as the person that you truly are. And unfortunately, like, that's something that I, as a person who has tried to be part of this community of people who create things, it is very, very, very fucking hard to be courteous to the liars and the two-faced shitheads who lie and cheat and steal, do anything, try anything, be anything they can be to make it to the top, simply to be at the top. Simply to make it about themselves. It is really fucking hard not to want to skin those types of people alive. It makes it very, very hard to stay the regular me. To not be that guy. To not be the negative and angry person that I was forced into being almost on a daily basis when I was still on Discord. surrounded by those types of people. It is very, very fucking hard. And the worst part of all of it is those people don't care. They don't care. They don't care about the people they hurt. They don't care about the people they surround themselves with. The only thing they care about is that spotlight. That's all they want. And if that's not what they want, then the only thing they want is to make other people as miserable as they are. And it's sad is what it is. It's sad. I personally, I don't want the spotlight. If you like my content, you like my content. I appreciate you. I don't ever, in any way, shape, or form, expect people to put me on this pedestal and say, I am the king of whatever. I don't. I don't ever want to be in that position, honestly, where I'm on a pedestal and everyone is expecting that anything I ever do is going to blow people's minds and only ever going to think good of me. I am a very flawed individual. If you can't see those flaws and understand those flaws, you don't know me as a person. You really don't. Because it's not our successes that define us. It's our flaws. And it's the struggle to accept your flaws that prevents most people from reaching that success. One of my biggest flaws is I am too keen to see the good in people. I really am. I tend to try and trust what people tell me. And hope and pray that it is the truth. But in reality, there is no way that you can truly know that what some people say is actually what they feel. Because there are those people who talk behind your back. There are those people who scheme behind your back and try to degrade you without making it seem like it's their fault. To pretend to be something that they aren't so that they can get close to you. I have met way too many people like that. And I am too much of an emotional and caring person to understand how these people sleep at night. I really don't. Because probably the way they do it is probably because they don't think about it. They don't care. They're forcing themselves to not care. Because in their minds, their self is all that matters. And it really sucks. It really sucks to see people turn out that way. It really sucks to see people turn out to always have been that way. And in the end, when you finally figure out that they're actually this way, it makes you question anything and everything they've ever said to you. It makes you question all of your actions. Like, what else have they said that's influenced your decisions? What else could it be that they've also sunk their claws into? And honestly, it's those types of people who having that spotlight will never be enough for them. They'll always want more. They'll always want something else. Whether it's money, whether it's fame, whether it's more of that time in the spotlight, whether it's making their own way or making their own stories or their own series. It's I don't know. It's very hard for me to understand that type of thinking because it's a very sad way to go through life, because it must be incredibly hard for those people to stay connected with others, to maintain relationships, to have friends. It must be really damn hard for them. And I don't feel bad in the slightest. Because in the end, those types of people will only ever be around those types of people. I only ever want to continue and say I wish them luck, but honestly, they're gonna crash and burn, and I'm gonna be there. I'm gonna watch it happen. I'm gonna sit there and watch it happen. And then I'm gonna move on. While they continue to sulk in their failures. It's a very, very sad thing. To sit there and watch people be like that. I don't know. I don't understand it. I really don't. And in some ways, I hope I never understand it. I really hope I never understand it. Because it's one of those things that I really hope dies out. Because people need to learn to not be so petty and pathetic like that. I don't know. And I'm sure some people are going to have rebuttals, and some people are going to say, "Oh, well, maybe because they went through this is the reason why they went through that." The thing about it is, I have been through some real trauma. Some people who say they've been through trauma, they haven't, because they don't truly understand what trauma truly is. And in some regards, some people do understand. I understand that some people are bullied through school and some people are treated like shit at home. And that can cause trauma. But what I believe true trauma is holding your cousin in your arms as he's bleeding out and sitting there and watching him die. True trauma is nearly beating a kid to death after losing your temper. Real trauma is having nightmares every night of your life for 10 years. True trauma never goes away. True trauma is sitting here and thinking, why didn't I jump that day? Why am I still here? That is true trauma. That is real reasons to explain why a person is the way they are. And all of these examples I have given you, right here, and I'm still here. Not because I was strong enough to get through it on my own, but because I found people who understand and support me. True trauma may never go away, but true trauma can be worked through. True trauma can be confronted. True trauma can be recovered from. And it's all of these things that I live by. I live by all these things. I look back on my life 10 years ago and give thanks that I learned and that I met the people that I met and I talked with the people I talked to over the course of that 10 years and got to where I am now. Granted, yeah, I've been done dirty a lot over these past few years, especially in Mania's group. I've been done dirty by a lot of them. Hell, 2 of them in particular managed to do the one thing Mania herself could never manage to do. They managed to get me off Discord. They managed to get me to stop making content for an extended period of time. But I recovered. I worked through it. And I'm still here. I'm also getting pinged. Anyway, that's something I've wanted to talk about for a while. And like I said in one of my previous vlogs, I don't want to bottle these things up anymore. Bottling these things up is the reason why I became that negative, grouchy, and angry man that people came to know, instead of the positive influence that they started out knowing. Because I am a very positive and patient person most of the time. There are some days not so much, but I try my hardest to be patient and understanding and kind. But in the end, I understand that some people are not worthy of that kindness. And for the most part, I know who those people are. I know the people who don't deserve my respect, who don't deserve my kindness, and don't deserve anything I can give them. I know who those people are. But I also know that, well, I guess I shouldn't say that, because something that people need to understand is people don't change. People don't change over a short period of time. For example, the 3 weeks that I just kind of disappeared, I didn't change anything. I was not changing. I was rediscovering who I already was because I had lost sight of that. I have a very clear perspective of who I am right now, as of now, and who I want to continue being. People do change through hard work, dedication, and wanting to change. That's the biggest thing. If you want to change, you can change. But it does not take a week. It doesn't take a month. It doesn't even take a year in some certain circumstances. It can take years, sometimes decades of hard work to become a better person. It's still taking me time to be a better person. From the person I was a decade ago to now, I am leagues and beyond much better of a person than I was then. But I still have a long way to go. Because there's always things I can be better about. And the thing about those types of people is they don't want to change. They want what they want because that's what they want. And if they don't get it, then they're going to try even harder to ruin other people to get what they want. If they can't get what they want, they'll ruin other people on their way down. And those are not the type of people I want to surround myself with. Those are not the type of people I allow myself to be around with. I don't allow those types of people in my life. Sometimes I don't have any choice. Sometimes I have no control over whether those people enter my life or not. The biggest example being YouTube. I have no control over what type of people watch my videos and who comment. I do have control over whether I let their comments stay or not. And people can bitch about me deleting comments and whatnot. I don't care. It's a very big thing with me. I don't allow negativity and degradation in my comments. Especially when it comes to the judgment of other people. Including myself while I'm at it. You are in no position to judge me. Because who are you? Who do you think you are? Is the question you should ask. Is the question I would ask you. I am a very flawed and complicated person. I'm not the easiest to get along with. I understand that. I'm not the most likable. I can understand that. But when I apply myself and I want to be, I'm probably the nicest person you'll ever meet. Whether in public or online. I endeavor to be my best when meeting new people and hanging out with people. I endeavor to try to understand, try to be patient. And I think that's what sets me apart from all these other people is I try. I actually try. And I think that's where I'm going to leave off. Anyway, I'm gonna leave off there. I'm gonna stop talking. I'm gonna stop taking up people's time. I've been recording this rant for an hour. I've mostly just been rambling through it, which is what I normally do. It's one of my biggest issues. I ramble a lot. But I hope someone out there understands. I really hope somebody out there understands. Lying and cheating and stealing your way to the top is not the way you want to go. Because once you get there, you're probably going to find that you don't have anyone else there with you. Other than the type of people that you thought you... Other than the type of people everyone else sees you as now. Anyway, so I'm seriously done talking now. So if you've watched this to the end, thank you so much for listening. You can take anything I've said with a grain of salt. Like, these are just, most of it's from my perspective. Some of you will agree, some of you will disagree. Some of you are going to leave a hate comment after the 30-second mark, the moment I open my mouth. It doesn't matter. I think I've properly conveyed my thoughts, maybe, quote-unquote properly, in whatever way I properly convey things. But this is something that's been eating at me for a while, and something that I felt I needed to address. So, I don't know. I've had a very complex time on the internet, on Discord, on YouTube in general. I've had a very complex time. And I don't know. I've met, like, the pros outweigh the cons no matter what. I have met some immensely talented and amazing people through my time on YouTube and Discord. And a lot of them I'm still talking to this day. A lot of them, unfortunately, have gone their own way. A lot of them have decided, no, I'm the only person that's important, and so on and so forth. I don't know. So anyway, thank you all so much for watching. I don't expect these types of videos too regularly, because I'm not the type of person to just unload my inner thoughts all the time. I try not to. I'm not that type of person. But if something is truly eating at me, I'll more than likely open up about it, because I'm trying to be a lot better about it, and I feel like I'm doing a good job. So, as always, I appreciate every single one of you. If you've watched this to the end, I really, really appreciate it. Your viewership and support is immensely helpful. And as always, I will see all of you in the next video. Bye!